guys. So my job is to make sure I keep on the bleeding edge of all the new change that's happening and how we can apply it in our business, our lives, to make it easier, more efficient, more effective. Essentially, having your own corporate assistant or your C-suite that's operating on your behalf. These things are going to take over every facet of your life and industry and your business. From answering and replying, analyzing emails, to booking your scheduling, and to taking care of your entire travel itinerary. Like literally going through, I went to Puerto Rico, took the family for a week. I put it only into Claude and into ChatGPT, and it allowed me to, based on virality, 5 stars, it planned everything down to the minute, where I was gonna sit, where I was gonna eat, it booked my reservations, and I showed it to the wife, she gave me a thumbs up, good, and I'm gone. Right? Same with business. So what I'm gonna do now with us is I'm gonna slowly start to introduce these little things to you guys, right? Utilize them, ask questions. The first thing is going to be the ability to have a different conversation with the data set. Typically, anytime we want to gain information on a particular listing, we got to go through our CRM, Monday.com, search laundromat, New Jersey, under 500,000, et cetera, and sometimes get a little cumbersome, and this applies to all data sets. Now we have the ability to have a natural language conversation with this. It's basically, in essence, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have Jarvis sitting next to you, understanding every nuance of your life, and be able to give you everything you want in an instant. So this capability is you're gonna talk to your CRM now. Take a look at all my buyers. Out of all the buyers I have, who is qualified to purchase a pizzeria in New Jersey? Gives you all the information. Of that information, who has an up-to-date NDA? 50% of them have updated. Can you do me a favor, send an email to those individuals who don't have completed and up-to-date NDAs? Bang, the automation already kicks in. And then you have a listing that you want to promote to this individual, and you're automatically matching your listing with the thousands of buyers that you might have. And you're only dealing with the qualified buyers. And you can set an automation where it's gonna basically keep your buyer list fresh. Anyone who notices in the PDF as it scans that it's expired, it's gonna go in and automatically just, hey, set them every other day, he's gonna get an email, hey, you need to renew your NDA, et cetera, et cetera. It's gonna get to the point where this thing's gonna take over your schedule, your emails. I know I get lost in the sea of emails. I miss very important emails just because it gets lost. This thing monitors your email day in and day out and tells you by levels of priority what you should be focused on, what you should be doing, and keeps you on track. So just a small nuance. And if you see a lot of clones, that's gonna be me. I'm gonna clone the crap out of everyone and then help Headstone grow exponentially. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alex. That's amazing. Great work.
How important is garbage in, garbage out? If you don't feed the system with the right numbers, it's not gonna learn by itself, right? So we gotta put in the right information, like you said on the call, right?
Yeah.
You gotta make sure everything is filled out because it doesn't know unless you fill it out.
So it's only as good as the data set that's available. So it's important for all you guys to ensure that, I'll get you, brother, to ensure that as you're putting information into Monday, which is our central database, that you do it correctly, that you and ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There will be an issue if we can't find a pizzeria in Jersey because you didn't put New Jersey, right? Or cash flow, or how much commission do we get? Or fill in the blank. You have to take the time on the front end. It's gonna make everyone's lives collectively better on the back end if we fill in all the proper information.
We're gonna sell more businesses that way.
100%. We'll be more efficient. Eventually this thing will be working, just providing you opportunity like this, like clockwork. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alex.
Alex, one more question real quick, buddy, and this also goes towards Mike with this. We talked about data cleanup, et cetera. This is also hinging off what Dino's talking about. And this may be some lack of education just because I am newer using Monday. The thing that I don't really see is how we can go ahead and, with what you're saying, the scenario of like, hey, who's qualified, who, but it's not necessarily who's qualified to buy the pizza, but who wants the pizzeria? You know, you have a listing and who is all out of all my list of, 600 buyers that it's going to go through, because I don't think we have sufficient enough buy box data in Monday at this point.
So
I'm making notes on buyer for that. Maybe I'm just using it wrong.
So there's many different functions within Monday. You obviously have the initial intake form that the buyer fills out, where it gives them how much liquidity does he have, what experience does he have, what industries is he looking for, what geographic regions is he looking for. So we have that,
Okay.
But also there's an intake note section all the way down where the buyer or you type in notes. Basically, Jim is looking for a pizzeria. He has 500,000 liquid. and you put it in the note section. The AI is going to scrape every line item, every note, every PDF document that is associated to this lead.
Even the PDFs.
Even PDFs, because remember we
For
looked
the NDA.
for that guy, whatever, and it basically tells you everything about that buyer, and then now it's going to auto pair because it's going to say, hey, I read column J, and column J states that Jim is looking for a pizzeria in North Philly or wherever the case may be. It's going to provide you that.
It's scanning then,
It's scanning
I can
everything.
keep my own sheet and
Negative, my
doc,
friend.
and just go read that and pull that in like
Everything.
Perfect.
That gives me a great idea. That gives me a very good idea. So what we should be doing as a company, we should have an intake form when you're speaking to a buyer. I'll make the intake form up. I'll send it to everyone here. Post that in Monday, and that also will be captured as well. We should have a standard intake form.
The more data and information we get, the more quality we get on the back end. Garbage in, garbage out. If we do good, proper filtration mechanisms on the front end, because look, at the end of the day, we all know buyers are liars. Buyers that tell you they have 16 million, but they're living in their mom's basement
Yeah.
driving for Uber, right? So you're just gonna spin your wheels with an individual, and the way to vet these guys is systems, standard operating procedures,
video.
same as what Mike is basically going through.
All right, I'll call you back. I'm in the middle of a presentation.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you.
Intake forms for like sellers as well, so that per industry, like what would you need for car washes, auto body?
So we have a BDS,
Yeah.
right, which basically gives us certain questions that help us on the front end of sellers. The way we treat buyer intake and seller intake is going to be completely different. Seller intake is a little more white glove, right? A little more detailed when it comes to starting to find, because they'll tell you a front-facing story. When you really go back and talk to the CPA, it's a completely different scenario. So it's a little different, but to Mike's point, we're going to have good filtration mechanisms on the front end, so that now we're dealing with quality on the back end, and it's going to help my life immensely with regards to AI implementation. For sure. Thank you.
And to answer your question also, we're gonna have every business type is gonna have their own intake. You know, what's when speak to a restaurant owner ask? Okay. Section 1. I'm gonna go over restaurants right now. Restaurants are one of the biggest businesses, one of the biggest small businesses, meaning there's so many of them. So I have a couple of questions here. I kind of want to just see where we're at. We're gonna go over restaurants, car washes, and maybe one other type of category. So during due diligence, how can we verify the numbers of a restaurant? Is there, so everyone write down the answer. How can we verify the numbers of a restaurant? What are you gonna ask when you get a restaurant for sale? What do you need? P&Ls, like what are you gonna look for? Write down that answer, a few things. How do you figure out the unreported cash? It's a very tricky question. How do you figure out the cash that's not there? Because there is, in a lot of small businesses, cash that's not there, but it is there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, how much they spend, what they spend on their product, what they buy, is usually a good answer to what somebody makes.
Yeah.
Buys a year.
So if it's a pizzeria, how many cases of cheese do they buy?
How much cheese
You can tell.
buy, how much sauce you buy, how much soda do you buy, and that'll tell you what they really make.
So the bottom question, if the numbers can't be proven, would the owner allow a buyer to deposit funds and observe operations for 30 days? That's kind of like a statement that I want to tell everybody. And this is a very important statement. If you're buying a cash business, that's one of the only ways to get the deal done. I've done it with so many car washes, is to have a set due diligence period, agree on the numbers up front. If the numbers are not within 10% of what the business makes, according to the seller, then the buyer's deposit is refundable. If it's within the 10%, within the 30 days, so if the business does $100,000 a month and the buyer gets in there, the business does $40,000 a month, of course his deposit's not refundable. But if the business does $91,000 a month, even though it's less than the 100, it's a seasonal business. The deposit deposit's non-refundable, and the buyer has to move forward. If you can convince a buyer to do that, that work strategy works very well for me. It's not a conventional strategy, but in the cash business world, put your money where your mouth is, and that's how I look at it. And if you can't put your money where your mouth is, then you're not a real buyer. I've done probably 50 deals like that. What is the average food cost in the restaurant business? What do you think the average?
35%.
35%? Okay. Okay, we're gonna write that down. You know, deliveries versus pickups, that's a concentration of revenue when you're dealing with a restaurant business. In any business, you wanna understand the concentration of revenue. What's the delivery concentration of revenue? What's the pickup concentration of revenue? How many slices do you order versus pies that you sell? Slices are way more profitable than pies. You know, if you're in the roofing business, you know, how much residential do you do? How much commercial do you do? How much monthly recurring revenue do you do? You've got to break down the concentration of revenue with every business. Very important. In the restaurant business, how is liquor or wine inventory handled? It's always handled, it's a separate item rather than the purchase price. It's separate dollar for dollar wholesale value. So if you sell a restaurant for $1 million, whatever the inventory is separate, and the buyer and seller and a third party will count it and put a wholesale value on it. It's always separate. Supermarkets, liquor stores, restaurants, inventory usually is always separate. It's very important to know what the restaurant square footage is. You know, if you have a huge restaurant and you do $5 million a year, that might not be a good thing. You know, you might have 50 people on staff, your rent might be $25,000 a month, and you might not be making money. If you have a 1,000 square foot restaurant that's doing $2-3 million, you could be making a lot of money because your employees are less, your rent's less, your food cost is less, you're more profitable. So that's important to know how big a space is. There we go. All right, car washes, one of my favorite opportunities. And we have some really good off-market deals right now that we're gonna buy as a group. I'm so pumped. When I smell blood in the water, I like it, seriously. Like, right now is a time to go in. So in the car wash world, just excites me. I always ask gross revenue. You always want to start at the top. What are the gross sales? And then you want to break it down. You know, what's your membership? How much membership do you have? How much credit card sales do you have? So membership separate. How much credit card sales and cash do you have? You know, those two go together. They're all concentration. I don't want to confuse anyone. Membership, credit card, cash. Do you do any detailing? That's important. Do you do any wholesale detailing with dealerships? That's important. Remember, when you do wholesale, there's no sales tax. So you don't have to pay sales tax in wholesale. So I get all the top line numbers with the car wash business, and then I'll go down the list. The biggest expense in the car wash business is what? Payroll. The car wash business is the payroll business. When I speak to buyers, that's what I say right away. When someone calls me, I'm like, the car wash business, just so you know, is the payroll business. Like, that makes sense. If you can control your payroll, if you can send guys home like today, it's cloudy outside, it's not gonna get sunny, you look, you have 5 guys there, I want 3 of you to come back tomorrow, that's gonna make the difference. That's why I have good managers on site that I trust that can do that. You have to pay overtime. People that don't pay overtime, which is a lot of these car wash operators, it's very risky. We still will buy it, but we will discount that piece of it. Amount of cars washed per year, that kind of ties into number 1. I like to know, how many cars do you wash on a busy Friday? This is one way for me to figure out what a car wash does. I can go to any car wash. I could say, how much do you do on a Friday? Or I could just have someone sit there for a day and count cars. If he does 300 cars, I know what the average is gonna be if it's a full service car wash on Long Island. I know what the average is gonna be if it's an express car wash on Long Island. If it's a full service car wash on Long Island, just talking Long Island, it's gonna be between $30 and $40. That's what it is. So if it's $35 and you do 300 washes a day, you're looking at what? You're looking at $10,000, right, that day. I know that's a $2+ million place. You know, I know that because I'm in the business. That's another way to figure out the cash component as well. You want to know how big the tunnels are. It's important. When you're speaking to a private equity company, they're going to want to know how big that tunnel is because they might retrofit it from a full service to an express. They might look at that location, like the car wash that you're selling, Delaney. They might look at that location and they might say, you know what? It's 100 feet, it's very tight, let's make that express. And honestly, I think that should be an express car wash. So that's important to ask. CRM use. None of these businesses use CRMs. That's what's gonna make us better than everybody in the country, because credit to Alex Swoltowski, he is a monster at using HubSpot, Go High Level, which we're gonna implement into every business that we purchase, especially in the Buyers Club. And we're going to just ping every single customer, not members. We don't wanna ping members because they might get annoyed, but we wanna ping customers that we don't have every day. Come for the discount, come for the discount, come for the discount. Get them on site and sell them on site. We're gonna do that with every type of business. So CRMs, I don't care what business you are, it's a need. In Headstone, we use Monday. We completely customize Monday. Now we're building our own CRM. That's gonna be an AI CRM, it's insane. That's coming next year. Type and age of equipment in the car wash business. You wanna know what kind of equipment is it? Is it Bellinger equipment? Is it American car wash equipment? You know, you wanna know. I know all of the players. I know every equipment manufacturer in the car wash space. Some equipment's trash, some equipment's good. And the age is important too. Property details. Do you own the property? You know, are you leasing the property? In the car wash world, I would never touch a car wash that doesn't have 20 years on the lease. Never touch it. If it's a smart landlord and you ask for an extension, he's gonna charge you right now between $10,000 and $20,000 a year to get an extension. So if you want a 10-year lease, that's gonna cost you between $100,000 to $200,000. It's called an extortion fee. and they can rightfully get it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Is that to like just have access to the extension, or is that just keep paying for the extension, or like what is that?
So that fee is basically, just say you have a 15-year lease,
Yeah.
and you know they charge you $10,000 a year. That's $150,000, and then you'll have a 25, instead of a 15-year lease, you have another 10-year option that's baked into it now. So now you don't have a 15-year lease, you have a 25-year lease.
So you're just paying for the option?
You're paying for the option.
And that's just lost in the ether, that's not going towards the actual?
Nothing.
No, that's separate.
It's extortion.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
separate, yeah. And that's standard on Long Island. Some landlords, like I've done deals, like I did a deal in all the way out east, and it was a 50-year lease. It was actually a 15-year lease, and I got it to 50 years, and I was waiting for the number, because you never talk first. You make an offer, you never talk. The guy's like, yeah, I'll give you a 50-year lease. I'm like, you just added another $1 million onto this location. You didn't even know. So that's important in car washes, is the lease. If you own the property, if you're buying a car wash with the property, it's important to know what the EBITDA is, what the business makes, what the rent should be, what the combined value is. You know, for example, I just picked up a car wash yesterday. The guy has an acre property. Huge, one of the best car wash locations, but he's only making $400,000 a year. And he wants $9 million, so it's a 5 cap. But my pitch is, if a private equity company comes here and they take the full service model and they make it express, what's that cost gonna be? I'm calculating that number. If they make that place express, that place will net $1 million because of where it's located, all the different accesses, and he'll probably take $8 million, so it might be worth it. But most of the time it's based on numbers. 99% of the time it's based on numbers. On Long Island, there might be a real estate play here or there. Will a seller hold a note? You have to push the note. It is so important to get your sellers to understand the benefits of seller financing. Because if they cannot do an SBA, if there's no other alternative route in financing, you're dead in the water. So many people take deals, they don't look at the numbers, the seller won't finance, they get it there, they spend all their time in the deal, the buyer comes, he doesn't have $4 million in cash, and what happens? Can't get the deal done because the seller doesn't want to seller finance, the numbers on the tax returns show losses, So you're just wasted how much time? So in the beginning of the conversation, when you're speaking to the seller, it's our job to educate every seller on seller financing. Now, why is it good for a seller to seller finance? And you educated them on that. You're the one that put that together because you took out the calculator. Everyone go to bank rate amortization schedule. When you put that in front of a buyer and you tell them, listen, you guys are looking at the multiple. When I buy a business or when my clients buy a business, we look at the cash on cash return. If I put in $1 and I can make 36 cents, if you look at that multiple, that's a 3-time multiple. It's actually less than a 3-time multiple, right? So focus on, if you guys have a listing that is a little higher of a multiple and you can get the seller to seller finance, focus on the cash on cash return aspect. That's a great philosophy when you're selling a business. I've done so many deals where the buyer was like, wow, you're actually right. I'm like, membership programs in place. There's a few third-party membership programs in the car wash business. I use one of them. That's why we created our own membership platform now, and we're going to give it out to the car washes that we own. So instead of paying 8% now, we're paying zip.